So, ihr Lieben, da sind wir wieder und ja, es ist wieder was passiert. Wir stehen hier einfach so, wir standen nicht hier, sondern hier. Und wir gucken mal, was passiert.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Oh, das ist neu, oder? Figurine Finders Kommentar, schön. In the meeting room, okay. Da ist der Eimer. Oh, hier ist was Neues, oder? Awaiting Input. Ah. Aber ich habe Input gemacht. Okay.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the
Meeting
door
Room
on his left.
ist doch die Dings, ne? Wir müssen in den Meeting Room. Wir haben jetzt sowieso keine Wahl mehr. So. Ah. How we can find them. Bottom text. Okay, schön. Da, guck mal. Maybe we are the collectibles. Oh. Okay, wow. Guck mal, die Tassen und so. There will be a reward for finding them all. Okay. Wow. Trust the completion's instinct. Okay, was ging denn hier ab, Alter? Follow clues provided by employee 416. Thank you, good luck. Okay. Da einer war auf der Toilette, aber den haben wir ja schon. Ist hier jetzt einer drin?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Tun wir das? Ja, ne? Ja, komm.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nein, tun wir nicht. Haha.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Nun gut, den haben wir auch, aber dann gehen wir jetzt auch hier lang. Guten Tag.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk?
Nein.
All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Doch.
And then something occurred to
Aber
Stanley.
irgendwie anders in der
Maybe,
Reihenfolge
he
kann
thought
es
to
sein.
himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence
Ja, die
in a
Reihenfolge
single
ist
moment
definitiv
for
immer wieder
no
anders.
reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Ja, vor allem, wie
No,
kommt das
Stanley
Auto
said to
hier hin?
himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want.
Oh.
I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal.
Oh.
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Scheiße. Bin immer noch hier.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Oh.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Oh nein. Das ist das Ende. Oh,
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Okay, gut. Schön. Tolles Ende. Blöde Kacke hier. Toll.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Dann gehen wir halt noch mal.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Jetzt müssen wir ein bisschen weitergehen. Jetzt will ich dem Escape-Schild folgen. Ich beeile mich.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley could, yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Beeilen wir uns ein bisschen. Wir haben ja keine Zeit. Ich will jetzt diesem Escape Way folgen. Ping, ping. Der ist ja jetzt hier.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Noch extra bedrohliches rotes Licht. Guten Tag.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Haha.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Ja, okay. Ja, gut.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Landschaftsgemälde. Das hängt im Büro, glaube ich. Das ist mein Büro. Dann geht's hier lang. Guck mal, schön. Schön. Und hier die zwei Türen. Die zwei offenen Türen waren der erste konkrete Teil des Stanley-Parabel-Designs. Als dieser Raum erstellt worden war, entwickelte sich der Rest des Spiels als eine Erweiterung davon, eine Erkundung des Widerspruchs, den dieser Raum darstellt. Aktenschränke, ja danke. Es war wichtig, das Spieltempo in diesem ersten Abschnitt richtig einzustellen. Dieser Korridor wurde verschoben und verändert, um sicherzustellen, dass der Spieler die beiden Türen in einer guten Zeit erreicht. Krass. Bürogrundriss. Dieser Plan zeigt das Büro... Ja, okay. Im Laufe der Entwicklung wurden Abschnitte hinzugefügt und verändert, aber der Kerngrundriss ist fast identisch zum ersten Durchlauf. Bürocomputer. Den habe ich aber noch nicht kennengelernt. Kann ich die alle ausmachen? Zack. Aha. So. Gucken wir hier. Ja, Standard-Büro-Ding. Das Büro. Interessant. Knopfgeräusche. Eine Auswahl an Geräuschen, die im gesamten Spiel beim Drücken von Knöpfen verwendet werden. Jedes Geräusch ist eine Mischung aus einem Tastaturanschlag und einem künstlichen Ton. Credits, lese ich nicht vor. Links oder rechts? Ja, das ist jetzt schon wieder so ein Ding, weißt du? Erstmal da ist irgendwas Offensichtliches. Hier gehen wir erstmal hin und gucken. Chefbüro. Ach krass, das sind die verschiedenen Looks, oder was? Ach, das war sozusagen der erste und dann, okay, dann hat man hier schon mal die Bücher hinzugefügt und später das. Screenshots der Entwicklung vom Chefbüro. Ja. Bürouhr. Immer die gleiche Uhrzeit. Ist echt schön, oder? Also ich finde das toll hier. Ne, da. Freiheitsende. Das war die allererste Verkörperung des Freiheitsendes in der Alpha-Version des Spiels. So. Countdown-Schreibtisch. Einer der Schreibtische aus der ersten Version des Countdowns. Freiheitsende. Das ist das Freiheitsende, wie es in der Beta-Version vorkam. Achso, okay, cool. Countdown-Raum. Einer der ersten Version des Countdown-Raums. Überwachungsraumaufzug. Ey, das ist richtig geil, was hier alles so rumhängt. Der Raum ist mir gänzlich unbekannt. Sending. Dieser Screenshot zeigt die erste Version des Ende als Sending, das als Sending bekannt ist und das letztlich ausgeschnitten und mit einem anderen Teil des Spiels zusammengefügt wurde. Aha. Oh, Hebel. Kann ich nicht benutzen. Sending-Hebel. Diese Hebel waren ursprünglich ein Teil von Sending. Der Spieler sollte an einem Hebel ziehen und der Erzähler sollte beschreiben, an welche Farbe er gezogen hatte. Wurde das abge... Okay. Sending-Modell. Das Sending durchlief viele Anpassungen. Dieser Raum zeigt die 4. Version des Endes. Okay. Moment, was? Wir dachten, es sei vollständig, beschlossen aber kurz vor der Veröffentlichung es zu verwerfen und zu ändern. The game is now paused. Das Pause-Menü. Ist hier lang? Trailer. Wir haben im Laufe des Spiels... Ach, krass. Also das ist richtig cool, so ein Museum dann zu errichten. Ohne Scheiß. Das könnten viele andere Spiele auch machen. Irgendein Spiel hatte das auch gemacht. Irgendein Shooter hatte das gemacht. Irgendein Call of Duty oder so war das. Die hatten auch sowas. Oder war das... Nee, nicht Call of Duty. War das Bad Company? Könnte Bad Company gewesen sein. Meetingraum. Okay, First Option... nochmal first one option, nochmal first two options. Okay. Das verwirrt mich jetzt so ein bisschen. Wartungsraum Grundriss. Es war wichtig, den Lauf der Gänge nach den ersten beiden Türen richtig hinzubekommen, da die Spieler wiederholt durch sie gehen würden. Wir haben eine Reihe von Entwürfen diskutiert, aber letztlich hat sich die einfachste Variante durchgesetzt. Ach, krass. Schon verrückt. Okay, wie es weitergeht, seht ihr beim nächsten Mal. Ich sage danke fürs Zusehen und tschüss, bis bald.